Yeah, we occasionally come together to do work, but more often than not, it's us doing it on our own. You can't do it on your own. We are in a trying time right now. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. There's probably somebody in this room that's a Republican and voted for Trump. Believe that. You got scared folk who have voted for Trump. Does that mean that's not my brother or that's not my sister? No, no, that's a strange dynamic. That's what we have to deal with. And we have to find ways, we as the leaders have to find ways to galvanize our community and make things better. You ain't gonna be here forever. I've been sick the last year, and I say this to say no, nobody's guaranteed anything, right? And so, as long as you're on this earth, you better do your best to do your best work, right? That's what we're charged with, okay? And you're not alone. It probably seems like you're alone. You're probably doing lot of hard work, and you're like, man, where is this going, right? I feel like that at times, but you look in this room and trust and believe you're not alone. We just gotta come together, stronger and better. Trust and believe that. So the theme of our program is the Night of Ideas. This is a program, Night of Ideas, that started maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. It started in Switzerland. Folks from all over the country would come together for the one purpose. That was one day only, and that was to solve problems. You come to this convention, you got a particular problem, be it globally, locally, whatever the case is. You present it, and then we talk amongst each other. And we say, okay, that particular issue, how do we solve it? That's why we're here today. We know the myriad of issues that we have in the community. We need to figure out how we're going to solve it. Can't sit back and lay wait. Can't sit back and say, well, he's going to fail. He's got 4 years. It'll be over. No, 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 no. Your kids ain't got that time. Your grandkids ain't got that time. Heck, I ain't got that time. Just found out in the last year. So we got to get to work. So we're going to propose questions to the panelists, which will be focused on the following topics: voting, economic impact, and justice. You in the audience also will have a chance to ask questions and further elaborate on topics of discussion towards the end. We have to have these conversations, okay? We have to have this dialogue. So, without further ado, I want to, of course, thank Dr. Ford Burst. I'm going to tell you how divine intervention can work at times. I was presented with an idea to go to a larger space at the church. Man, you need to be at Flagler. Why aren't you over at Flagler? Man, Flagler is where it's at. I said, oh, that's a good idea. Well, let's see if we can make that happen. So we were in a slow process of trying to get to Flagler. And lo and behold, Dr. Forburst called me. I wasn't expecting you to call me. Called me at the right time. He said, hey, what are you going to do for MLK? Are you guys having a project? I said, yeah, by the way, we are. And you said, well, dang, why you ain't called me? What's going on? And I said to her, I didn't want to be a burden. We've been here 2 years, and I did not want to burden you with that. And she said to me, bring the people to the church. This is where we need to have this conversation. You don't need to be out in the streets. You don't need to be out there in the college. We need to have these conversations amongst ourselves. She said that, man, forget Flag, is what I said in my mind. You just don't realize what you did. It was just phenomenal. And call me out the blue. And you gotta admit, we rarely talk. It's texting occasionally. But for her to call me and say, why ain't you coming here? You should be here. That's significant. Dr. King was right here. They say this is the only church in Florida where he preached and immediately walked into the streets and led a protest. Like this is history. We know Miss Cora Tyson, 101 years old, knew Dr. King like that in this church. So there's a lot of history here in this place. It's, in my opinion, sacred. And so to that, thank you for allowing us to have this space. You folks, the guests that are here, thank you. And I say this often, it may sound corny, but you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to come here today at 1 o'clock to have this dialogue, to have this discussion. That means a lot. It means a lot to me and to my fraternity and And lastly, this wouldn't be, we wouldn't have this without you panelists. Not a single body on this group said no. Not a single person. I had people saying, I got this going on, but I can move that over so I can make it there. Every person that I called on and asked for help in this mission of making this community better and growing, all of them said, heck yeah, count me in, and I'm on board. So to that, I graciously mean thank you so much for being here and sharing this time. So we've talked about our plans today. Is to talk about what we're dealing with, what's in our community, and what's affecting us. I like to introduce this lovely lady, the mistress of ceremonies. She also happens to be my wife. So she's actually going to lead the discussion for today. And to that, before my wife gets started, you've done so much. Your exact title in Duval County is
Director of Government Affairs.
There it goes. Director of Government Affairs. She worked for Congressman Lawson for 8 years. She was his lead here in Northeast Florida. She's heavily in politics and media. She's worked in the media field. So that's why I called on my trooper here to lead the way. And if you would, panelists, what I'm going to ask you, as opposed to me going down the line and introducing you, I just would like for each one of you to simply stand up and let us know who you are and just give us a brief of what you do. And we can start.
All right. Excuse me. Can we make sure we're using the microphone?
Yes.
We're on.
Please.
Testing 1 2. Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, especially in the house of the Lord. Before I tell you who I am, I want to say thank you to James. He's affectionately known to me as Jimmy. Jimmy and I grew up right across the street from one another growing up. And if I don't say this, then, Jimmy and I are really not supposed to be here. Jimmy and I were held at gunpoint as children together. And me, him, and his brother, Vaughn, and God is so good. I'm just so happy to be here and to be reconnected with Jimmy. And of course, I'm not going to tell Jimmy no. But anyway, thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Julius Demps. I'm born and raised here in Jacksonville, Florida. Currently, I'm a professor in the Davis College of Business and Technology at Jacksonville University. I'm in my 17th year there. I also teach for the University of Fredericton in Canada, and I've been teaching in Canada in executive MBA and MBA programs for the past 5 years. On a local level, I sit on the board of the Baptist Health Foundation, and we're responsible for helping to raise funds for all of the Baptist ER spots, all of the doctors' offices, all of the doctors, all the hospitals, the MD Anderson Cancer Clinic, and the Wilson Children's Hospital. In addition to that, I'm serving with Jimmy on the Clara White board for the Clara White mission, and we are responsible for providing needs for the homeless and the veterans here in Jacksonville. So that's a little bit about me. And again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Keisha King, and I am serving as the president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Omega Phi Omega chapter, and it's truly an honor to be invited to be on the panel today. By training, I'm a PharmD, so a doctor of pharmacy, and I specialize right now in nephrology with patients that have rare kidney disease. And it's important for me to be here today, not only to show my advocacy, but I'm also a mother of a son that is a second-year engineering scholar that's attending school at Fordham University. So I know the world does not like him. He's a smart Black man, and he has power and the drive to go farther. And so I advocate for him and for everyone that looks like him, that wears the skin color that needs to go farther but may not be given the opportunity. So thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Nelson, and I am co-mark of the St. Augustine Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. My professional trade, I am a branch manager at Community First Credit Union. I've got over 20 years experience in financial services and banking. I'm a past president of Family Promise of Jacksonville, where we take people from homelessness to housing, homelessness to housing, but keeping the family unit together. A lot of time, our unhoused are split up among shelters, and Family Promise tries to keep families together. Also, really involved in mentoring. I had a mentor when I was young that really directed my life and helped me. And to pay it forward, I dedicated my life to mentorship. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the discussion today. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Obi Umina. I am an attorney, born and raised here in Jacksonville, went to the University of Florida. I have my own law practice called Umina Legal Group, where we work with small businesses and we help them get started. But I'm also a political consultant who's worked with all candidates that you've heard of, particularly the last 3 school board chairs have been my clients, as well as I just left the Biden-Harris campaign and was the Southern political director, so political director for all the Southern states for the Biden-Harris campaign.
I'm Regina Gill Phillips. I'm the executive director for the Lincolnville Museum and Cultural Center, which is right across the street. And we are in the running for the 2nd year in a row for the best small town museum in America and the USA Today poll. I hope you all Google our website and vote for us every day. We finished 5th last year. But I also serve as currently as chair of the Tourism Development Council here in St. Johns County. I serve on the board of the St. Augustine Historical Society with our outgoing president, Mr. Jackson. I also have helped to spearhead the Community Remembrance Project with EJI for St. Johns County, and we put up a marker here at our visitor center for Isaac Barrett, which was one of the only named lynching victims here in St. Johns County. And we actually had the first marker to go up in the state of Florida, but it was lynched. It was out near the St. Johns River, so EJI worked with us to do another one and work with the city of St. Augustine to get that done. And so I was also on the Florida task force for the Black History Museum, which you guys heard about, that's coming in St. Augustine. And so we're stoked about that because St. Augustine has some of the oldest history. Our museum tells 450 plus years of history, that we've gotten a lot of national recognition, and we're trying to make sure that, the rest of the world and the rest of this community knows about what happened here in Lincolnville, here in this church and on the streets of Lincolnville, so that this is not forgotten and that we can be proud of the resilience that this community has had over the years.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Jackson, lifelong resident of St. Augustine, St. John's County. I went to school from kindergarten through 7th grade across the street, and then we integrated into the Catholic school system. So we were what they call the integrators. This was kind of a second home over here at St. Paul because I go to church, it's Catholic school, church across the street. And my family is members of St. Paul, so I come over here and I'm like a second home to me. So I enjoyed being part of this kind of a panel because it focuses on the local community, and I wanted to make sure that we focus on things that affect us every day. So I'm happy to be part of this organization, a part of this presentation today. I'm also one of the founding members of the Fort Mosaic Historical Society, also vice president of the West Augustine Improvement Association, and as Gail said, I'm an outgoing president of the St. Augustine Historical Society, which is an organization that I'm trying to get them to tell the whole story. Because up to a certain period of time, they've only told stories about the Spanish and the British and the Mallorcans. Well, the black people were here throughout all of that. So that part of the story needs to be told, and it's being told a little bit more. So that's one of the things that I kind of focused on, telling the whole story. But I'm happy to be a part of this. And I guess I should say I'm the chairman of Dr. Martin Luther King celebration. I mean, from this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ken O'Mara, retired TV broadcast journalist. Now, first term city council member on the Jacksonville City Council. Husband of 50 years, father of 4 daughters. Proud to serve the community I've called home for the last 50 years, if you will. I'm sitting here reminiscing. The last time I was here in St. Paul, Elder Richardson was a pastor, and that's been a minute. Thank you to Pastor Ford and to the members of the Divine Nine for this opportunity to be able to have a conversation. I'm one of those who believe that when you start talking, then things start happening. Yes, sir. And so hopefully that this conversation will sow some seeds that we can make some changes in the days ahead. Thank you for having me here.
Well, let's give a round of applause for Ken. Thank you. And Ken, believe it or not, that was in my notes. So I said, let's plant some seeds today that can take off and grow. Again, my name is Courtney Wesley. I'm the leader moderator for the afternoon, and I'm so glad that my husband curated such an amazing panel. They bring with them a breadth of knowledge and background and skills, history. We're in St. Augustine for a reason, not because it's the service area of some the organizations represented here today, but because our history, right here, since the inception of St. Augustine, we were a part of. And we need to tell our story to the generations behind us. St. Augustine is more than some lights or a fort. Let's really start telling our story and how we became an integral part of the shaping of St. Augustine. From the earliest times in American history and to the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr. was called upon to come and see what he quoted as saying the most lawless place in America during the civil rights movement, and he felt compelled to join in. And so we are following in his footsteps. We are living the dream, but are we doing things to make sure that dream continues past our time on this planet? So let's start off with some of our questions to our panel, and there will be plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions. We want to hear from you. We're not preaching to you. We're not preaching to our friends on the internet, but we want to hear what you have to say because there might be a seed in you that you need to plant amongst us. So I will start. We're in St. Augustine, and just so happens, a lot of us are from Jacksonville, our surrounding counties. And the reason, because maybe we don't feel empowered here in St. Augustine, or we don't have the engagement that we once did maybe a generation or two prior to us in the majority in the room. I think maybe stop with X. I see some younger people down here. But my question to the panel, and anyone can answer this is all open call. How do we empower this community again? How do we make them see that their voices are important? Anyone? Yes, good. So one of the things that we are doing, yesterday I just finished a 2-day workshop that was sponsored in part by the City of St. Augustine, but it was open. And we had City of St. Augustine police officers there, we had city personnel there, and we had people from the community that was there. So it's a workshop to help people to communicate better, open up the lines, take off the layers of what separates us and get rid of some of the, or at least to discuss some of the isms that keep us in a place of oppression or internalized oppression. And so that's one way of just talking to each other. And I think keeping those conversation lines open, being honest and truthful about where we are, how we are, and be willing to speak power, speak truth to power. What I didn't mention is we also do an accountability meeting once a month with our city manager. And it's through those conversations that we were able to host that workshop for the last 2 days. But just to communicate, and not just with others, but with ourselves, that we have been trying to pull together the Black community here, all the various organizations, not just on Black History Month or MLK Day, but to bring them together, to form coalitions so we know what each other are doing and why we're doing it, and to support each other in what we're doing so that we're not operating in isolation. We still have a lot of work to do with that, but I think communication is the main thing that we have to do, talk to each other so that we don't, wake up and say, and this is not to put this on the spot, but it has Lincolnville as one of these pop-ups. I'm the director of Lincolnville Museum. I don't know anything about this past verse, and that's what I'm saying. The communication is lacking, and we have to get, not that I'm not willing, I just don't know about it. And so, that's what we have to do to get to where we are a community that comes together and stays together. What happened in the 1960s was that all of the people of St. Augustine, Lincolnville, West Augustine, they were all on one accord. All on one accord.
Thank you. That's very true. And where did we lose that? Where did we stop engaging? I know with the opportunity of integration, we wanted better for our children. My parents wanted better for me and my brother. So I get the fact that we wanted to finally engage into the greater society, but how did we lose the connection before we got to this place? And before we answer that, I'll restate it. Our last panelist has arrived, my dear friend, Ken Jefferson. We just want to hear a little bit from you about your career, about your civic engagement, and the work that you're currently doing.
Thank you, Courtney. I apologize for being there. Coming from another MLK event, we had to take the drive down here. So nice ride though. Nice ride. I'm Ken Jefferson, born and raised in Jacksonville. I graduated from the Big R, Reborn High School. We had any Vikings in here? Right. Oh, snap. That's the better R, that's the Big R. Anyway, I had a 24-year career with the Jackson Sheriff's Office as a law enforcement officer, served in numerous leadership capacities during that particular time. Upon retiring from there, I've served as a crime and safety expert for News for Jax, Action News, and now currently First Coast News as your crime and safety expert. Currently, I'm involved in several things. I sit on Providence High School Board, Youth Crisis Center, Police Athletic League. I just named those three. And I'm currently working in the community on a regular basis. People say, well, you're retired. Why are you working so hard? Well, to me, retirement is just another word for lateral movement. That's all it is, because my motto is if you stay busy, you stay healthy. So I want to stay healthy, and I'm going to stay busy, trying to help my community, which I love. I was born and raised right here, in Jacksonville, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and from a law enforcement side as well as a secular side. I've seen all those things occur. You all may know I ran for office, I ran for sheriff. The closest I came to winning was the second time I ran. I lost by 2 points to Mike Williams, who didn't want the job, as was evident when he was caught living in another county because he said Jackson was too dangerous. But the thing of it is, in that election, there were 7 of us in the primary. I came out number 1 in the primary with a 23,000 vote lead against Mike Williams. And people took for granted that I already had it. You got it, you don't need my vote, that misconception, what have you. And on the day of the election, for those who waited and didn't vote early, it rained. Y'all know how black folks are with rain, especially women, their hair. You're not gonna get their hair wet on local elections. If it was Obama, they'd get the whole outfit wet, but not for me. But that's what happened. I lost by 2 percentage points to Mike Williams. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to engage.
Thank you so much, Ken. To restate my question, Isabel Wilkinson's Warmth of Other Suns, I'm reading that now, and I think about the Great Migration, and maybe that was part of the change and the disconnect that we started experiencing as African Americans. So again, where do you think the loss of engagement, when did it start, and how can we repair that engagement level? Because like you said, Gail, in the 60s, everyone was singing from the same sheet of music. We knew there was an issue. We knew we needed needed to fix it, but the only way we could do it was together. Now it's not four no more. So, any thoughts on that?
I'd like to make a comment about that. When we talk about the community here in St. Johns County, St. Augustine, really in the 60s, it wasn't really a kumbaya kind of situation. And the reason why I say that is because there were some folks who, well, if Dr. King came here to St. Paul, he also went to First Baptist. So at First Baptist, he said, look, we getting ready to go downtown, and we're going to march downtown. But he said, if you cannot be nonviolent, stay here at the church. So there were some folks who had that thinking and feeling that I want this, but I just can't take the nonviolent part of it. I'm going to fight back. But they didn't want to hurt the cause. Now that, not hurting the cause, was the connectivity that connected me. But I do believe that history should not keep repeating itself. We should not be making the same mistakes over and over again. But the thing is, we have different people with different thinking, different philosophy, different ideologies. Even though we all have the same thread running through us of being black and wanting that cause to be attained, we have kind of maybe different methods of going about it. And that's why I think that we have the connectivity. And if we can expound on that connectivity, we can get a lot more done.
Any other thoughts?
Courtney, I don't know where to begin to answer your question. I think that self-preservation may have been a defining factor where we lost that sense of unity. When Nina Simone sang, to be young, gifted, and black, or James Brown, say loud, black and proud. I think our identity became immersed, and it turned into self-preservation. I'm reminded of Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son, where he writes about the crystal staircase is full of tacks, and we were promised a crystal staircase, and life was just as difficult, if not more difficult. But in the same poem, he said, I got to keep moving. So I think that we lost that sense of unity, of cohesiveness, if you will. And I know I'm speaking in generalities, it's not everyone. I remember as a reporter coming down to St. Augustine and speaking with some of the active members then in the NAACP and Mr. Henry Klein and others, thank you. And you felt then that, especially here in St. Augustine, where it's the bosom of the civil rights movement here in the Southeast corridor that we're in, you felt then a sense of cohesiveness, a sense of trying to hold things together. And I'm not sure if that exists even right here in this community today. We've seen, and I'm done after this, we've seen how Lincolnville has transformed, and gentrification has come in, and it's all because of self-preservation, I think. I'm no sociologist, I'm just running my mouth. So perhaps that's the genesis to the question that you're asking.
And on the theme of self-preservation, economics is really the driver that helps us reach a plateau that we're ready to reach. So, once upon a time, the black dollar would circulate amongst our community 6 times before exiting, and now I think the economic says that it's less than a day stays in our community before we exit out. And the theme of once integration hit, that I can let me go where I was denied going and get the services. I'm still gonna go to the church here, to the hairdresser here, maybe to the corner store, but we stop supporting each other. So economically, let's talk. I've got a banker here. I've got economists here. How do you think managing or even educating about finances. It would benefit this community on a local level and on a national, global level. Where are they doing it right? What countries have you seen? What communities have you seen that are have really harnessed the power of their economics? And how can we emulate that?
Very good question. Very good question. It's my personal belief that financial literacy should start in middle school and be a required course all through high school. That's my personal belief. From what I see on a day-to-day basis and what I've seen over the last 20 years is, as a community, we don't think long-term with our money. We just want to solve for right now. And in a lot of ways, I understand. Rent is due, car payments due, the light bill is due. We don't think about the life events that will occur in the next 10 years. So I'm a father of two daughters, 23 and 15. In the next 10 years, I will see a high school graduation, 2 college graduations, maybe a wedding, and I need to be able to support them as they start their lives. So that planning needs to start 5 years ago. But we don't have that mentality. And until that occurs, and it can start now. It's more than just, I'm going to open up my baby a savings account and I'm going to put something in it. Do that, but buy them bonds that'll mature in 25 years and be double and triple the value. Talk to them about planning for their future, even if you don't know what your future is. The expectation is you're going to graduate high school. You're going to go get a secondary education in some trade. But I'm going to prepare for that so you can go where you want to go. So I know that's a long answer, but what I would say is, and this goes back to the mentoring piece, we've got to talk to our youth about money. When I was growing up, this is for grown folks, is what my parents and grandparents would say. And it's not. Money is about everybody. So have conversations. Thank you.
Obi?
Yeah, two quick points, and I agree with everything he just said. And as I said in the beginning, my law practice, we work with a lot of small businesses, and I think if we really want to grow wealth as a Black community, we have to start our own businesses. We have to have our own opportunity to grow our own wealth. The second part of that, though, is I think what happens is sometimes as a community we are so focused on economic power that we forget about how important political power is to growing that as well. If you look at a place like the Tulsa race riots, right, where that was a community that was full of Black wealth, and they tried to ruin it. What people don't tell about that story is that they rebuilt that community. And then what happened? They put a highway through it because they did not have the political power in order to protect their economic power. And I think when we talk about where we need to go as a community first, we need to focus on both of those things at the same time. We can't just focus on wealth and then allow people to get political power and take that wealth away from us, or not allow our companies to get government contracts that are making these other companies rich, right? For example, in the news, we heard about the trash company getting another $12 million, right, on a contract that they had already had assigned. And I think these are, regardless of whether or not you think that's right or wrong, that is money that is coming out of our tax money. And those aren't Black companies, right? And so we need to be careful about doing just the economic part and not also focusing on the political part so we can protect that wealth that we have.
Great point. Ken, you wanted to add to that? Gail?
Yeah, I was just going to say right on to what you're saying, because the whole anti-wokeness movement is about keeping the things that we used to call set-asides, 30, 40 years ago, to keep those kinds of opportunities away from people of color. And so when we look at where we are today, the people who are making big contracts with our government, most of them don't look like us. They don't have us at the top rank of management, and they are trying to make it where they're not required to have people of color in their top ranks. So the political part of it is very much tied with the economic part of it, and we have to connect the dots to all those things that will help us to grow as a community. The people moved from this community, as in other Black communities across the country. There was this great exodus because they could go places they couldn't go, but that also created a situation where the Black businesses that were here couldn't survive because now the people weren't supporting them. So we also have to support the businesses that we know about in our communities.
Amen to that. Amira.
I just want to piggyback on two things. Number one, I agree with the brother who said about mentoring. Just my engagement with young folk, they know money. They know what the value of money is. But their desires are somewhat misdirected. They want to wear Gucci and Gucci and everybody else and put their money there. And they understand what that money can buy. And so and the reasoning for that is so that they can have some unimaginary status in society. Until they understand the value of planting that dollar now for the future. There's a quote I read somewhere that we're all descendants of the past, but we're parents of the future. And we just can't see the future, unfortunately. We see the now. And how do you get them to shift that paradigm, that thinking, that behavior? The brother mentioned something about set-asides, and while courts have ruled that you can't have these race-based programs, I can say unequivocally that there's still governments that are committed to social equity, and so they have created, perhaps under different names, small and emerging business. And what has happened is these small and emerging business, whether it's female-owned, minority-owned, whatever it is, they have lost confidence in the process, and therefore they're not participating. I know in the city of Jacksonville, we hire Mr. Grant from UNF, and he's been doing a fantastic job trying to increase the number of JSEP participants and let them know that there's some dollars out here that can help your small and emerging business, but you got to become part of the process. And so perhaps there needs to be better education that even though we don't have these set-asides based on race, ethnicity, they're there. You can take advantage of them regardless.
Great point. We're going to continue with BJ and I'm going to say Jefferson. I'm going to call them by their last names. We're booked in by Kings on this panel. So BJ, you wanted to add to that?
Yes, I do. And before I offer this, please forgive me. I love African Americans. I love Black people. But one of the things, and I agree with everyone on this panel. One of the things that we have to focus on once we gain those opportunities is how to focus on keeping those opportunities. Professionalism. If you say you're going to open up at 8 o'clock, open up at 8 o'clock. Right? Learn the art of customer service. Thanking your customers. We don't have an obligation. Sometimes when we open a business, we believe that our people are obligated to support us. No, they're not. Right? So we have to think about those things, being thankful and being gracious to our customers and our clients, showing that different level of professionalism. The second thing that I want to bring up is that I think I heard you say in your statement some examples of some other folks that may do it well, using examples. I used to be a school teacher. I'm a college professor now. And when I look at our Asian brothers and sisters, can come from all over the world, speak broken English, learn about law, learn about taxes, and they open up businesses, many of which will open up places where they will sell you hair down to your rear end. They'll come to your feet. They'll come to your nails. They will sell you food that they don't even eat, right? And we support them holistically. When you close your eyes and think about it, is where's the reciprocation, right? And so when we look at those examples, those things should inspire us to dig down deeper and learn how to support our own. Does that make sense? So that's it. I'm shut up.
And finally, Jefferson.
So I heard a couple of points made, and I agree again with everything that's been said so far. Talked about political power and the empowerment that it has in the community, economically and otherwise. We as a group of people, African American people, have the most political power there is. They'll tell you that we don't, because they know how lackadaisical we become when it comes time to show up and to let our voice be heard. We can control anything we want to control because we have that power. And unfortunately, we don't have enough parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles encouraging their relatives, their family members to register and get out and vote, and empowering them to know that this is your voice, this is your time. Because the general attitude is, well, my vote is just one vote. You know how many elections we won with one vote? My vote is just one vote, so it won't really count. Every vote counts, as we all know. But we've got to instill to gain that leverage that everybody up here is talking about. I'm just not saying it as sophisticated as they are, but I'm saying the same thing. For us to leverage the power that we have right now, we have to encourage our family members and others to exercise their voice and get out and vote.
Great points. I'm going to move on to a different subject area. I mean, there are so many things I want to jump in, but I want to go back to what you were saying, where the Asian community, they will open up in our areas and sell the things they know we are attracted to. And I'm going to go to a slight pivot for the healthcare. So they'll open up restaurants that are with low nutritional value, and it might be the only thing in a almost food desert or a food desert, and that is the only option that that community has. So I'm looking at you, Dr. King, and thinking, you know, the health outcomes for African Americans on almost everything that can kill you is always highest with the African American community. Can you speak to the those situational things and how we might address them and help our community, St. Augustine, Jacksonville, Clay County, Hastings, Florida, those smaller communities, what we can do to help raise the awareness and provide some more support for those in that space?
Your point is well taken, and unfortunately, we do top the charts in leading health disparities and disease, and that's unfortunate for our people. A lot of it is driven socioeconomic, which is a fact, but also we have to invoke education to understand how to eat, what not to eat. Just because it's given to us, it's in our community, we still can develop community markets. It's different things that we can do to empower ourselves. Just because we only have, you know, a type of food or a different brand that's in our neighborhood doesn't mean we have to consume it. Because we can take the power back ourselves and educate ourselves. And so that's what I want to highlight, that we need to really just identify what is healthy. Because unfortunately, our forefathers, they were given food, they had to make the best. We have different options now. And it's up to us to make a decision. We know what kills us. We know what kills us, but we continue the cycle. And so it's up to us to educate ourselves to break that cycle, because nutrition, we can control that. We control things we plant, we can control things we harvest. We may not maybe go to each grocery store, you know, high-end grocery store and buy the food, but we can grow some. We can partner with our neighbor. I know my dad is a farmer that loves to grow food. My uncles, they have food. When we were younger, they would swap food. So that's an opportunity. So we may not have gone to the grocery store to get everything, but there are some things that we could grow and we could harvest ourselves in order to have. So that's an opportunity. But we know that there are things that are killing us, but how are we pivoting to make those changes? And I think in our community, we're not empowering ourselves to make those changes that we know that we can make. And so it really begins with education.
someone in your family before you got here. Maybe you met them as a child that would grow something, or was a farmer, or even had a backyard garden. Okay. Keep that hand up if you still have someone in your family doing those things, growing, catching, fishing. Okay, but the numbers dropped. And my greater point is, why don't we? I will share a personal story. If you know me, you know I love tennis. I'm on the tennis courts outside from session when I have to be in Tallahassee. I can be out there 4 days a week. When my doctor told me I was pre-diabetic, you've never seen greater panic in my house, because there was being forced to look at what I was consuming. And I had a sheer panic. My husband could tell, what do I eat? And as smart as I like to think I am, I realized I was just kind of, what was before me, what were my options? Okay, I guess I'll run it here. I'll get something healthy one day, maybe the other. I won't. What's convenient? But us not realizing our nutritional value, if you don't have health, you don't have anything. So, I just raised that point to just really make us think about let's make more informed decisions when it comes to that. Yes, DJ.
Piggybacking off what she just said and what she just said, just some quick tips. Technically, when we shop, we're supposed to be shopping on the perimeter of the grocery store. Everything on the outside of the grocery store is fresh. It will spoil. Everything in the aisles it's preserved. Okay? This is one of the quickest, easiest steps that you can take right now, today. Bread. Bread is not supposed to last for a week. It's not. Bread is not supposed to stay in a bag and last for a week. You go to other countries, Europe, Asia, Brazil, bread is made and consumed on the same day. If you're eating bread out of bags, you're killing yourself slowly. So if you're in Publix, go to the bakery. If you go to a bakery, one of my favorite places that I shouldn't eat at all, the donut shop in Arlington, right? If that donut is not eaten by noon, if you get that donut at 7 o'clock in the morning, and if that donut is eaten by 12, it turns hard. It's supposed to. It's supposed to. We're not supposed to be eating out of cans. We're not supposed to be eating out of boxes. And I know it's hard, but that's one of the quickest things you can change right now is to stop eating bread out of bags. Just 2 days ago, the United States of America just banned red dye, and that stuff's been killing us, especially in our communities. Kool-Aid, sodas, that stuff is banned in Canada and everywhere else around the world for decades, and we've just been consuming it by the gallon. It's in cereals, it's in candy, it's in everything that we eat. So I can talk about this forever. I'm gonna shut up.
No, great
Can I
point.
just add
Yes,
that,
Amira.
most of us in this room can afford to shop the outside aisle, but there are people in our midst, in our community, who are on fixed income, who cannot afford to buy fresh produce because it does spoil and you end up throwing it out. And so their food budget is very limited. So they are forced to buy the stuff with the extra sodium and the extra preservatives just so that they can have something until the end of the month. Because if their check comes in at the beginning of the month and they're trying to stretch it out because they can't necessarily get back to the store every week the way we can stop, that it's an issue. And it's an economic issue more than anything, because I just bought eggs the other day, $5.89, you know, and that used to be maybe $2 and something. Everybody can't afford to just continue to eat all the things that they know are healthy for them because they just can't afford it.
Very true. Mr. Amira?
Courtney, I don't know where to pick up, to be honest. I'm gonna tell the brother stay away from the donut shop.
It's a healthy donut.
Love the donut shop. I stay away. Your question about this conversation, narrative started with about health outcomes, and the reality is that perhaps generationally or otherwise, it's been a problem among us, if you will, and for a couple of reasons: access, lack of insurance, lack of knowledge, have been major contributing factors, if you will. And you know, we all realize as grown adults that it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank if you don't have your health, then your wealth don't matter. And so there has to be a reverse of thinking as to, um, how do I access my health care? Why don't I go get insurance? They try to hang President Obama for creating the Affordable Care Act, which was creating access to those who cannot afford insurance in that marketplace. And even those who could were still complaining about paying for the health insurance when this is what you need. You can't use emergency rooms as your family practitioner's office and expect to get good health care. And then there's a lack of knowledge among black men, for example. There's always a concern about prostate cancer and things of that nature because we as men don't want to experience the invasion that comes with a digital exam and things of that nature. I had a friend call me the other day and he was panicking because his PSA was high and he didn't want to do anything. He wanted to wait 6 months while the doctor's telling him maybe we need to do a biopsy. But if you want to wait 6 months, we'll wait 6 months and see what happens. And I'm like, dude, do the biopsy. Give yourself peace of mind. And I'm asking, did he feel some nodules or something on the prostate that he would even mention doing a biopsy? And he's saying that was never explained to me. And I'm like, it's your health. Ask the question. And I think after he left, a couple hours later, he started seeing his end, if you will, his demise, his transition. And so he reached out. But the lack of education, lack of gupster to say, this is my body, this is my health, I'm going to give it a priority, I'm going to make it a priority. And one quick thought on the brother that was talking about customer service. I told my wife the other day, if I never go to Popeyes again, I'll be all right. And the reason I say this is because every Popeyes I've gone to is someone that looks like me, but they treat me like, and I'm like, it ain't your business, number one. Just give me some good service. And so there has to be a shift in culture in dealing with people, learning how to tolerate, how to be tempered, how to be patient, and go from that. I digress. I'm sorry.
Dr. King.
I wanted to highlight something Gil mentioned because we do understand there is a socioeconomic, impact to purchasing food. But I think it goes back also to the education because even if someone can only afford canned food, preparation, how they prepare, preserve it is important too. So it still goes back to that baseline education. Because if you can only afford certain things, now how do you make it healthy or reduce the risk that could be if you ate it out of the can or the way it was given to now make it a little more healthy. So there's a lot of education. I even think about how many people read their nutrition label. All right. How many of us can truly say we eat the serving size that is noted on the nutrition label? All right. So when we think about obesity, and just to give you an idea, in the U.S., around the world, they've been evaluating BMI, basic metabolic index, by your height and weight. And I've been saying this for years as a clinician. That is the wrong way to measure if you're obese. So now they're evaluating how to re-look at that because we realize waist circumference and other measures are more important to identify if you do have an increased cardio risk factor. But I wanted to go back to the nutrition label because all of us overconsume food, which is why we have an epidemic in the U.S. and even around the world with obesity. And we're dying. A lot of the health conditions that we have is because we're overweight. We eat too much. We eat the wrong things. And so I think when we think about just education with people that do have socioeconomic, disenfranchised, we can also look at ourselves as well. How do we now educate ourselves? We can educate others to now be empowered to make better decisions for themselves.
Okay, like at a fork in the road. I'm going to go this way or this way with this conversation. I want to go back to the policy. So we all know that, if I see it, if it's in my family, if it's somehow connected to me, I've got diabetes, high blood pressure. But honestly, those reside in the African American community. When I'm speaking to, if I'm lobbying or advocating for health care, and I'm going to Tallahassee or I'm going to DC, talking to a lawmaker about these things, can they necessarily appreciate the impacts? We got to drive it home. And so I go back to what you were saying, Ken, when Obama was trying to create the Affordable Care Act, and then Michelle was trying to teach the country how to eat better. I've never seen more backlash in my life about teaching something we all know is right as educated people. So why did she get the backlash? My thoughts, my personal thought, was, do they not want us to be freed of the shackles that our poor health comes for outcomes? Do they not want us woke? So to the policy side of things, are we speaking to our elected officials about these issues that impact our community, impact us most directly? And I look to you, Obi, I look to you, Ken. When you are working on legislation, when you're helping to educate these elected officials in the healthcare or any other silo, how would you best tell our audience to engage with our electeds more about things that directly impact the African American community?
I'll start. I think, really quickly, I think if you look at Jacksonville, I know, Courtney, they've divided Jacksonville into what we call health zones, right? And they divide the city into health zones that are numbered. And the health zones that have the majority of the issues are health zones that are mainly populated by people that look like us, right? And I think a lot of that is because of social economics and things that we've already discussed. I think that we have to acknowledge that the system is part of the reason why we're in this situation, but we also have to figure out a way to get out of this situation, right? I think one of the things I see when people want to go talk to officials and they're worried that officials aren't taking them seriously is because they have not done enough prior to get these officials to notice them. Meaning, and I like what my man said at the very beginning, he used to just vote, right? But you can't just vote. If you really want political power, if you really want public officials to listen to you, you have to do more than vote. You need to volunteer. You need to organize. You need to be in their face. You also need to give money. You also need to raise money and give money to these politicians sometimes. Sometimes that's what they hear. I think sometimes you have to think that if we are just voting, that is not going to be enough to get public officials to do what we want. We have to do more than that. And I think that's sometimes, unfortunately, that's all we do is vote. And that's not going to be enough moving forward.
And before I put Ken on the Amara on the hot spot, because you are the elected official here, I wanted to ask really quickly, in St. Augustine, do you have, and educate us about how you were addressing health disparities in this community? Do you have anything like health zones, and how are you promoting that awareness here?
So there are a few, like community gardens. I know there's one in West Augustine. There used to be one in Lincolnville that no longer exists. We have a new healthcare facility that's coming online. It should be, next year, I think it's due to be completed. West Augustine Health, like a $7 million health facility that's going to be comprehensive. It's going to offer opportunities, like there's going to be a Y in there. There's going to be a health clinic, afford to go to a doctor, so there's like that continual care, not just an emergency place that you go to. So there are plans in the works to help to make that happen, but it's still down the road. So I think the education part is really a really key issue to what we have to do. And go back to, you got a flower pot, put some seeds in there and grow some greens.
And Mr. Amaro,
Just want to touch on two things. And I don't know the history of the health zones that were created in Duval County. Don't know if St. John's have the same. But I think demographers, sociologists, health professionals created the health zones primarily to identify where the needs are, more so than anything else, and hopefully to be able to channel resources to those areas. And so, quite often, the high-risk areas end up in the Black community, where again, lack of knowledge, lack of access, economics, those is the driving factors as to why healthcare is not the best that it could be. From a policy perspective, what needs to be done is to be able to lobby elected officials more frequently to get their attention to what these needs are and how they can channel the resources to those communities. I just got elected a year and a half ago. I've had one meeting with, I think it's Delta, I can't remember which sorority it is, but they have made it their obligation to reach out, at least in my space, to every elected official to see what your commitment is addressing health outcomes. And so they're coming back this year again to see what has been accomplished. The Jacksonville City Council, Councilmember Rothman Johnson, had introduced a resolution trying to send a message to Tallahassee to expand Medicare. And it failed. I supported it because I know the reality of folks not being able to access health care. But until the majority of the voting bloc that controls the majority understands why this is necessary. And the only way they're going to understand is if you're in the face all the time. And yes, there's the money piece that, you know, the brother mentioned Meridian earlier. I'm one of those council members who voted to expand the Meridian contract. And then all of a sudden I was accused of taking a check from Meridian, which in 2023, Meridian did make a donation to my campaign, but my support had nothing to do with 2023. It had to do with the fact that they presented a plausible argument that they needed to keep their drivers, and I know the service guys in my neighborhood, the crews are all black. So if I'm going to support you getting a couple of million more so that you can pay the guys coming through my neighborhood, you have presented a plausible argument to me. Because the people that I see that, I know you're getting rich. Don't get me wrong, I'm not naive to that. But by the same token, the people that are the recipients of getting a higher pay raise and things of that nature are people who look like me. So my point in saying all that is, yeah, you got to be in their face to underscore the importance of why this is good policy, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And sometimes we've lost such a trust in our elected officials that we just don't feel that anyone's listening. Trust me, they're listening. If you slap them up against the head, often they'll hear.
Well, I'll go this way with that response. And thank you all for what you said to this point, and trusting my timekeepers to keep me on on schedule. But how many can name all of their elected officials? Come on, don't answer.
Come on, you can.
Raise your hand if you can name everybody who was on your ballot, and extra points if you had interaction with at least 5 of them. So let's look in the mirror first. What I saw the hands, and then thank you. You know, let's look in the mirror first before we're out here telling what we should be doing. Let's look in the mirror. Do I know my elected officials, and how am I holding them accountable? Sounds like the ladies of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority are holding Ken and other elected officials accountable. Bring them a report card, even if it's your city council member. I see you voted on this. Can you tell me why? I want more than what the Times Union or the St. Augustine Record is telling me. Why did you vote on that? And maybe you will hear, just like Ken said, their reasoning. So Gail, I see you.
I'm sorry, because I printed out with me. I'm in the museum business, okay? But I got this list today from, and these are like, this is just the Black Caucus in Tallahassee, okay? But we get lists of all of the elected officials that are related to tourism and economic issues that come before museums, that we have to go before them to get funding for what we want to do. And so it is on us to reach out to those people and talk to them, have conversations. Tom was able to get the support that he got for the Can't Write House because he was in the face of all the elected officials. It wasn't just because they like him a whole lot. Maybe they do. But you have to call them, write them. You know, we get a letter every week from Rutherford's office. You know, we get letters, you know, from all of the different elected officials because we have written to them and asked them for stuff. So, you know, it's, you know, you may not even talk to anybody, but you can call and leave a message on your answering machine because they will follow that. Am I right, brother?
But since I was called, I guess I need to say something. You know, she's been to the handwriting house. I know it was brought to this group about 2 years ago. We talked about it in here in St. Paul, and we were trying to get money to save the handwriting house, which we affectionately call the MLK Beach House. Dr. King came, and he was supposed to stay at that house, and the St. Augustine Record published that address in the newspaper. Well, Dr. King couldn't stay there because they shot it up, and there's an iconic picture of him pointing at the window with the bullet hole in it. And that story and that picture went all around the country. I mean, it was in the Pittsburgh area, it was in Philadelphia, San Francisco. But what Gail was alluding to was the fact that we went to Senator Hudson's office, sat in there in his office, went to Representative Renner's office, sat in his office, and we needed the money in order to move that house and save it from being demolished. Now, those individuals, they're Republicans, and Republicans now is a kind of a bad word in the black community, but at one time, Republican was a good word in the black community. My granddaddy was a Republican. My father became a Democrat because it was the individual, Democrats were in power. They had the power. Now, the MLK Celebration Committee, every year we choose a theme that we try to feel like this is a timely theme. This year we chose, the time is always right to do what's right. But last year we chose a theme that I really liked, and I wish we could choose that theme every year. But we said, America, be true to what you said on paper. And we can hold the national organization, the Congress, the president, the mayor, city council, councilman, the state, they have paper that they have to follow. And if we know what that paper says, and we know what they're supposed to do, we can hold hold them accountable for what we expect them to do for us. And that's why I'm kind of a jackleg historian in a way. I'm not a historian by training, but my father was a historian. He had his master's in history. And I think it got by osmosis. But the thing is, I look at things from a historical perspective. When you talk about the Fort Mosaic period, which was the early Spanish period, when you talk about the British period here in St. Augustine, and you talk about the second Spanish period, you talk about the American period, that's a whole lot of periods that we went through as black people, and we survived. Now, we have the wherewithal and the tenacity to make it. We just have to figure out a way, all get on the same page, and just do it. I don't have an answer to these profound questions, but I think there's a solution. We just need to find it. And like I said, if we can hold them true to what they said on paper, then we can get done what we need to do.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Now, with that, I would like to go to the audience. We're going to the audience to see what questions they have, if there was a point that you wanted to expound on. But when the end, and I want my panelists to jot this down and start rolling this around in their minds. What are you working on now? What are you excited about that you're working on, that you see on the horizon? And hey, we got willing participants that are here, and they want to know more about what you're working on and how can they get involved. So my first audience question.
I think is I listen to the panel. You have a great panel. I've been in St. Augustine since '89. My thing is, I sleep locally. One shoe doesn't fit it all. Most of the people here from Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a large metropolitan area. St. Augustine is when I came here, it's a servitude mentality. But my thing is that even with the museum and what we're doing here locally with the history, I got people here in St. Augustine that don't know the history. And I'm going to go to the young people. What are you doing to bring the young people to the forefront to know the history? Personally, I have not seen any direct results from the school, going through the administration, the bus for kids, the health programs for the middle school, say high school, even the smaller kids. What are we doing to try to nourish that group? Because I think that's the foundation.
Great question. Anyone want to tackle it? Got a minute.
Funny you should say that. We are in the middle of writing a white paper now to present to the St. Johns County School District. We do bring students to our museum all the time. You know, we've got right now about 27 groups on our books of children that are coming in from different places. And so most of them are coming from out of town. And so we're trying to work now on the St. Johns County School District so that they can stop using COVID and the lack of bus drivers as an excuse for why they can't bring students to their local museum. They go to other museums, so they need to make Black history a part of what they do. So that we are here.
Thank you.
Also, as a part of the St. Augustine Historical Society, one of our subcommittees, which was chaired by the superintendent of public schools, initiated a history book that had specifically Black history about it. And that history book really focuses on local Black history. Now that's something that was put out by the school district. But as what we're doing with Fort Mosaic, every February for at least 3 days, we bring 4th and 5th graders from all over the central and north end of the state to go through the flight to freedom. And that flight to freedom tells them the story about Fort Mosaic and the struggle that we went through under the Spanish society. Now, we also talk about a lot of different things in conjunction with the Lincolnville Museum and Culture Center that tells that's 450 years. So, you know, you really can't but you have to have cooperation with the teachers, the counselors, the school system, in order to have them come out. And of course, first of all, the parents. If we can't get the parents to get the kids there, that is a big problem. But we've had over 700 and some thousand people that came through Fort Mosaic, and they were mostly kids. And they'd come out and say, well, where's the fort? And they got back, now there's a fort there. So they're going to be able to see a fort at Fort Mosaic.
Perfect, Thomas, and while Kamal makes his way to my soror, I do want to say, hey, what happened? I love that the Jewish community does a Saturday school and teaches their youth about the Holocaust. And I have been seeing different parts of the country that African Americans are starting to do that as well. Teach people about slavery and get them, since there's, be careful, since since there is a movement afoot to reshape what is taught, especially when it pertains to African American history. What happened to taking our own nieces, nephews, grandchildren, neighbors' kids? You take it. What's wrong with that? Make it a day. Yes.
I'm happy you said that, because one of the issues that has really concerned me, and I see this throughout the corridor, that is with the Gullah-Geechee corridor. That's North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And the corridor, by the way, stops right here in St. Johns County. As a part of the Lincolnville Museum, we don't get the support from the African American community here within this county. We have individuals who have never been to the Lincolnville Museum who live in St. Augustine. It's sort of like the guy, I met a young fella up in Tuskegee who lived across the street from the Tuskegee University. And I think he was about 14 years old at the time. He's a friend of ours. And this young man had never crossed the street to visit Tuskegee University. One would think that, to hear the band practicing, the museums across the street, and all of the history there in Tuskegee, that it would be unthinkable that somebody would not have walked across the street just because of curiosity. All right? But this is our reality. So I don't know how you do this. I would love to have somebody help me to understand this and figure out how we can incorporate this to the extent that people will come out and support what we do. We can support a dream. The State Museum has not become a reality yet. And we're not talking about something that's going to become a reality within the next 3 to 5 years. That's reality. But we have a world-class museum across the street that we can't get local people to support.
Sounds like a great project for this new MPHC that's coming. My sister.
Thank you so much. Denise Jean-Baptiste. I am an educator, and everything that we've been talking about to me centers around education. I work with lower quartile students, and one of the concerns that I have is the fact that we need to be looking at getting educators that look like us. But there's a problem also in that we need to somehow reach out to our community, that the person that looks like us most oftentimes are truly going to have our best interest at heart, and their standard for us is going to be a lot higher. And I can only speak for me, but 27 years, I am tired due to the fact that I have to fight to help you. You somehow think that someone allowing you to be on your phone, not having high expectations for you in terms of basic skills, means that you should be attacking them on a regular basis. And I am truly concerned about what can we do to take away some of the entitlement that exists, because it exists, period, but when it comes from us, because someone is not doing what you want. But if what you were doing was working, I wouldn't have to see your your child in my class. I'm an intensive reading teacher. If you're a junior or a senior and you don't do what you need to do, you're not going to get your diploma. And so everything we've talked about centers around education. And if we take it to the most basic level, we're talking about the ability to read, the ability to think, to take what you are reading and literally process it and think. And everything else that we've talked about, voting, that requires you to think. It requires you to do some level of research. The eating, it requires you to read and understand what's going on with your foods. Planting a garden, it requires you to read as well to know when should I plant this, when should I plant that, and so I just want to make sure that it is out there because people that look like me, we are tired and we are looking to do other things. And we need to have people that look like us to understand you can't do what everybody else is doing. Because, someone has said on Facebook, this Indian young man said that his mother told him, anywhere you go around the world, look for a black woman. Look for a black woman. But those of us who are in the school systems, we get tired of being that representative. Because once you're that person, everything that pops up, people come to you.
And we thank God that you were there to stand in the gap, and I get your weariness, my sister. Did anyone want to address her statements before we go to Pastor?
Piggyback what you're saying is like you get tired of having to educate everybody else about what's important for your community. And I say that because the community at large is what I'm talking about, will come to you and wear you out because they think you have all the answers for everything. And you're just trying to operate in an area that you have expertise in, and they want you to be everything to all people. But that one of the things that brings us to where we are is it's called internalized oppression, where we feel like the system is stacked against us. And when somebody allows you to, system meeting, I guess is what it's called, where somebody lets you bring your phone into class. And we got to get beyond the system meeting to where we want to change the system so that it is equitable for all of our children, for all of us to be able to do what we need to do so that we are not succumbing to just becoming a part of the status quo that has kept us in a place of kind of like in a quagmire, to be honest with you. The 1964-60 Rights Act was not the first one. There was one in the 1860s, 100 years before that. So we don't want to repeat history. The last thing I'm going to say is that somebody says that we have power, and we do. It is a collective power. It only works when we come together and use it collectively to go to an elected official like Mr. Ken Amaro. The Deltas went as a group. It wasn't one Delta that went to him, I'm sure. So it was they made it an effort for their organization to say, this is what we're going to do. And that's what we all have to do, to just find out what it is we want to do, find the person that can make a difference, that we have supported, and that we will continue to support, put pressure on them so they can put pressure on the other elected officials to help us to get done what we need to get done.
Lovely, love it. Pastor Paul.
Let's give all of our panelists a great big hand. I said a great big hand. They have done a phenomenal job, and they have said some very pertinent, they have given us some very pertinent information to make an impact in all of our communities, no matter where we are. And I think it really begins with education. It really does. And we're celebrating Martin Luther King, and we are fully aware of all of his sacrifices, all of the things that he did to make a difference that have impacted all of our lives. So today, we want to just take a little bit of what we've heard from all of our panelists and make a difference in our churches, our communities, our jobs, wherever we go. And it begins with us. Yes. It begins with us. It begins with us making the sacrifices. And I've heard about the food deserts, and I see how we spend our money. I see the places we spend our money to, and I see a lot of our lackadaisical attitudes when it comes to voting, getting out there and doing all of these different types of things. But I do think, and I do echo my sister here who talks about education. Because when we start educating our own, that is what's going to make a difference. Because when we educate our own, we can tell them about politics, we can tell them about finances, we can tell them about health. And this is a plug for St. Paul because starting next Saturday and every Saturday, we are doing a Black History, African American history class in our church. So we can start teaching our young people about most of the things that you talked about here this afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity just to share.
Powerful.
Yes, and we're going to share that again at the end. So how am I on time, my brother, Sigma Pi Lambda? Okay, perfect. This beautiful young lady in the purple.
Yes, I'm Rosa Hudson. I'm from St. Paul. My question is, I've been here since 71 or 72. I was blessed to complete my nursing here at the Technical Center first, and then at WFJC 1982. But my thing is, we have a lot of buildings coming up, apartment, home. But it presses on my heart every day that we have these, but who can afford them? You know, I live south of town, and when I ride on the west side, and I see all these buildings coming up for sale, or they empty. On 16, you have a lot coming. And they'll probably come from Jacksonville. But it just pains my heart when I see all these. And I hate when my girlfriend called them car boxes, some of them habitat deal. But they still cannot afford them. They call them affordable homes, but nobody can afford them.
Anybody want to tackle the affordable housing?
People that look like me, I'm sorry.
Well, and this is universal, and it does unfortunately hit us hardest, but affordable housing, it's a national problem, it's an international problem, really. Mr. Romero.
I'm sorry. What she's saying is true to some degree. But it goes back to what the brother in the red jacket from Community Bank and what Pastor Ford was saying a second ago, what Ms. Batiste was saying ago, is there has to be an increase in the education of your possibilities. I remember when my wife and I were, after our first daughter was born, we were, I think I was making maybe $15,000 a year. She was working at a bank part-time. I don't know what she was making, I don't recall. But we said to ourselves, we have a child, we need to find a house. We can't live in an apartment. We have to find a home that this child can call a home. And if I recall, she was pregnant with twins, so we were expecting twins. And we started driving through neighborhoods, found a house, and it was for sale by some white guy, and my wife goes up and said, "Do you have a problem selling to black folk?" He said, "Oh, just bring the money." She gave him a check that didn't have any money in the bank for the check, but he agreed to hold the check until we could find financing. We pursued financing, found financing at 10% interest. And we went from the place of not believing that we could own to actually own it because of that determination, because of the education searching for information as who you can find
broke or things of that nature. And I think too often we give up quickly. We don't have the dogged pursuit that we used to have as a community, as people. She used the word entitlement a second ago. We think that things are supposed to be there for us. And I'm one of those that you still got to go get it. You still have to earn it. When I kept trying to make that thing work, and he never gave up. He kept working on it. Recently, there was the effort to get the Black Museum located in St. Augustine when Eatonville and Tampa and others were trying to get. And you know what? The county commissioners from St. Augustine didn't have a problem coming to Jacksonville. They, Ken, how are you? Can you write a letter in support of this? They didn't have that problem of being dogged in pursuing it because they understand not only the rich history of St. Augustine, but the benefits of having that structure located here. I sit on the Northeast Florida Planning Council. We just completed our initiatives, and I made sure that I added to the initiatives for this year, securing funding for this museum. So there has to be that dogged from our bedrooms to the public rooms, whether it's the county commission, city council, federal, state house, wherever it is. We have to just quit thinking that they ain't gonna do it and make sure they do it.
Well, Ken, I'm going to go in another direction. I apologize if this is controversial, but knowing Ken's background, knowing Obi's background, knowing that within our community there's a splinter where we have people from the Caribbean countries, from Africa, they're Black, but they seem to be doing better with the finances and have that doggedness still about them. I don't know if it's generational, I don't know if it's cultural, but because of maybe it is our entitlements, we've kind of lost that. Oh, I don't need a house, I can have an apartment. What is it with our cultural awareness that you maybe being from another culture within the African diaspora that you see sets that apart or ingrains in that culture to be dogged about housing, saving, bringing up the next generation? Or is there a difference, or is that just a fallacy?
I'll tackle that. I think that our Caribbean and African brothers and sisters value wealth and value money differently than the traditional American here. And what I'll also say too is there are two main ways to transfer wealth through generations: home ownership and life insurance. And to the young lady's point about being able to afford a home, we are in a crisis. My biggest worry for my 23-year-old daughter is she will not be able to afford to live upon graduating from Bethune-Cookman in May. That keeps me up at night. But also too, to my next point about life insurance, we've got to stop getting life insurance just enough to bury us. We have to get life insurance not just enough to bury us. The gift that you can give your children and family, whomever you choose to leave it to, is one of the greatest gifts to secure them financially. So when we talk about these classes that I'm looking at, that I want to speak with somebody about African American history, on the first and third Saturdays, on the second and fourth, we need to talk about financial literacy. In the exact same place. But to go back to your question about the mentality, we can change that. We can change that. We can't go back in time, but we can change it with our kids now, with our nieces now, with our nephews now. The value of money and wealth is attainable. And it starts with needs and wants. I can tell you yesterday, kid came in early 20s, wanting to buy a car. Asked him what he did, he told me. And I said, what type of car are you looking for so we can, point you in the right direction? And as soon as he said it, I was like, sir, that's not it. That's not it. You don't need that. You want that. So it starts with wants and needs. And this is a young man, early 20s, works hard, works with his hands, makes money. Single, no kids, he said. But he wants something that's $70,000. And he rents.
Wow.
So I say all that to say the values that we can work with our children on now will benefit them when they are of age. And we're doing our children and family a disservice by not having that conversation.
Great point. Obi, I do want to hear from you, your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Nigerian household, but my dad was a college professor at EWC at the time. It's now EWU, and my mom has her master's, and so I think for me, I don't think it is immigrant parents or immigrant people value education more than anything else because they know that is a great kind of separator, right? But I also think I want to make this point as well is, and when you go to school, they talk about this Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't meeting their bottom level of needs, and that is not always their fault. That is the nature of systematic kind of injustice and things that have happened over time and put people in this place. And I think sometimes it's easy to look at those people and say, why aren't they doing this? When you know that kids are going to school hungry and they can't pay attention. You know that their parents are working 4 or 5 jobs and they're not able to make it to a parent-teacher conference. We have to, as the people in this room who are doing better and are able to have more of our needs met, work to make sure that those people get their needs met. We can't expect people to jump over hurdles that are honestly too high for them. And I think education is a place to make that difference. It is. I went to law school. I went to college was not an option for me. I was told that that's where I was going. It was the next grade, and I think we have to put those expectations on people. But we can't expect to put those expectations on people if their parents don't have those expectations or even had that mentorship or had that ability or even have the ability to send their kid off to college, right? And so, I was in college with a lot of people who did not have parents that were able to help them and able to be a part of it and they were able to push it through. But that makes that hurdle a lot higher. And I think I look around at the leaders in this room and I say, hey, we also need to reach back down and make sure that we're doing our part to pull these people back up with us.
Great point. Let's give our panel a round of applause. Okay, I really want to jump in there about the greatness of my university, Florida A&M University, and how they pushed me. I know we got some other HBCU grads here and PWI grads. So I did want to look back to the panel and see what you're working on now, how we can be engaged, and what do you think would be the next steps for your call to action, Mr. Jefferson?
Thank you, and thank you all for this opportunity to come and participate in this panel. I think it's been very enlightening, and I wish it was packed in here. But those that are supposed to be here are here, so we can carry the message back to everybody. So, as you all know, my background is law enforcement. I deal in crime in a good way. So what I'm currently working on is I'm working with the Police Athletic League as well as other organizations with young people ages 9 through 12, primarily, not exclusively, but primarily young men ages 9 through 12. That transition from elementary school to middle school is the most impressionable time of their lives. They're trying to decide who they want to be, what they want to be like. They're looking for someone to emulate themselves after. The majority of our young African American boys want to be an NFL player. That's their pie in the sky. You ask 10 African American boys, ages 9 to 12, what you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a football player in the NFL. Two of them will say something different. So my objective is to be proactive from a crime perspective or a law enforcement perspective, be proactive and teach them. And I have young men that's volunteered to help me with this, to mentor these kids. We're teaching them goal setting, consequences of joining a gang, how to interact with law enforcement. You'd be surprised at what their knowledge is, or I should say isn't, when it comes to interacting with law enforcement. We see the videos, we see bad cops, we see attitudes from people that's getting stopped by the police. We see it on both sides. The greatest, not the greatest, but one of the best things that ever happened was the body-worn cameras that the officers wear, because it holds the officer accountable. It also holds the citizens accountable as well, because people will lie on good cops and say they did this, that, and the other, but the camera doesn't lie. It's up close and personal. I'm doing private schools, churches, and nonprofits. If any of you all are interested in those kind of workshops or seminars, if you would like to join. That means Courtney's pushing. Here you go.
I'm doing other projects in the community right now, but where I teach at Jackson University, and there's not as many African American students at JU now as there were years ago. I'm spending a considerable amount of time, and I'm going to say this because this is probably one of the most controversial things that can be said in this room today, is to get all my black students and just tell them the concept that there are more of us that are being born into single parent families than any other time. We're in the 70th percentile. 70% plus of African American children are born into single parent families. That's hard. It's hard to put that on a mom, and that's usually the one who carries the weight. Just being transparent. Back to something this gentleman and this young lady was talking about over there. The school teacher, thank you for your service. I know what that is. I know what that is. Thank you, sir, for your activism in the community. I know what that is. Back to the issue she had with the cell phones. Why is a child who's bringing home bad grades have a cell phone? We're talking about accountability, right? It is on the parents. And this is another controversial thing I'm going to leave with. If we have a state government that is telling us right now that our history cannot be taught in colleges and universities, why are we sending our children to those colleges and universities to dribble basketball, to run football, to run around the track? Slavery is not alive anymore. They can't make us do that. Why are we doing that? Why are we allowing them to generate millions of dollars for those universities, and they're telling you that your history cannot be taught in those state institutions? So what I'm talking about now is just helping to promote the mindset. So.
All right, now please see BJ before that, Dr. King.
Oh, sorry.
So Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Omega Phi Omega chapter, our service area is actually St. Augustine, Florida. And so we have taken great opportunity to embed ourselves, to partner with different organizations in the community. I do serve as a president, and prior to this role, I was the vice president, and was able to identify several needs in the community. So we've gone to different housing or institutions to identify the needs and to partner with them. We also have some health and wellness initiatives. One of the initiatives that's my dire passion. How do we educate the public? And so we did have several organizations to partner with us, even hospice, a wide range of services, adoption agencies that have worked with us to identify the needs and then to bring that information to the community in order to pour into them. We are also this year looking at continuing our voter education forums, so just stay tuned for that. Our Facebook and social media pages will have a lot of our events that we're hosting, and also financial literacy workshop. That is one of our international initiatives that we will continue to educate the public. And as you all heard, there will be a new NPHC council. A lot of us in this room will be a part of that. We have already looked at our quarterly calendar, and all of us are inputting different ideas in order to impact the community. So you'll hear more from the council once we're chartered. We're just waiting on the national organization to give us the green light to get going. And so please join us in those efforts because we're really trying to impact the St. Augustine areas and the other areas that are joining us that are part of the NPHC.
Thank you so much. Sean?
Thank you. The men of the St. Augustine Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. We just got chartered in December, but we have jumped into the community. Currently, we are mentoring 7th and 8th grade young men at R.J. Murray. We go every other week, and we love it. Thank you. Thank you. Friday, if you didn't know, is National Education Day. So the men of Kappa Alpha Psi, we are doing what we call Room to Read at Weber Elementary, where we'll be spending 30 minutes in each classroom reading to the kids. Also, too, we just got confirmation today that we'll be feeding the unhoused starting in April here in the St. Augustine area, and we'll continue our voter registration drives, not just during presidential elections, but every year because local elections are important. So if you have an organization that is looking for volunteers, looking for mentors, please come see me, because I got bodies for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like I said before, my name is Obi Umana. I have a law firm, Umana Legal Group, and when we practice law, we are focused on empowering Black people in an economic sense. So if you have a business, small business, we work with you. We also do wills, trust, and estates to help you protect your what you build. And then on the political side, I work with a lot of political candidates. I recently wrote a book called Running for Office 101, a candidate's guide to getting started. It is a book for people who are interested in running for office. It gives you a place to start. I think what we want to put out is education and opportunities for people to understand where to start. And I'm willing to be a part of anything that is empowering Black people in an economic or political sense. And so I'm really grateful to be on this panel. Thank you.
And Obi, just a personal plug, I would love to see the minds in this room get with you and do a forum or just learn if you're interested in running, craft that. Let's get the people who could lead and just don't know how to be leaders, training of some type, but on a local level, a regional level, because the seat of the power is here for the next 8 years.
And you come speak to our Black Caucus, which we're trying to build here in St. Augustine. So what am I working on? A few things. First of all, this building where our museum is turning 100 years old in June of this year. So we're working on the 100th anniversary for that. It was the first Black high school in this entire county. So we're working on pulling that together, getting more oral histories from people who are descendants of people and putting together the oral histories we already have for an exhibit, for programs, and of course for fundraising. Have to throw that out there. I was at the ground floor of getting St. Johns County interested in bringing a Black museum to St. Augustine so we can continue to work on that process. We are working with our educational system to get more of our students into the museum so that they can learn about Black history. It's what we do 365 days a year. I continue to serve on the Tourism Development Council. Tourism is the largest economic industry in this county.
St. Augustine, absolutely.
So I just want to say in the state of Florida. And so right now I'm the only Black person on that council. I hope that some other people will come behind me or that you will join the ones in your county because a lot of money flows through there, a lot of opportunity. There's education that we've been able to get them to promote what Black people are doing throughout St. Johns County as a part of that. I'm working on an ongoing basis, building a beloved community. What we're doing here is a part of that. What we did the last few days is a part of that. Getting people to talk to each other. And that is the most important thing that we need to understand. What are those things the self-talk, when what I've heard throughout is like people, when we start talking about what our issues are, it's always a negative self-talk. I want us to get beyond that and understand what is communication across all lines with the garbage workers and the managers and the HR people and the finance people. All of those things we're doing because it's like it only takes one person to make a difference, and you just gotta find an opportunity and stand up and take it and not be afraid to walk in the door. And if the door is not open, you just keep knocking or kick it open.
Thank you so much, Gail. Thomas.
Yes. Back in 1980s, the Chamber of Commerce came out with a mantra for St. Augustine. And they said, come to St. Augustine. We've got 23 miles of beaches, and the rest is history. And that was so true.
Oh, wow.
I've kind of gotten, like I say, into history myself. And that's one of the things that I've done since I've retired. So I'm retired. I'm not really in the world of work like most of the people on the panel here. Well, most of them. And I choose things to do. And I think history is something that I want to get more involved in. So that's one of the things that I've been doing is doing reenactments for a lot of the young kids around. And we dress up in period dresses. We're kind of funny in that, but we tell the story. We have one of my reenactors who with me today, Brother Dawkins there. But on the first Saturday of each month, we dress in period dress, and we have the kids come out, tourists come out, and they get a history of what we were doing as black people back during that time. And that's something that we tell that story. And we tell the story in a way that we do it in the first person, and we try to stay in period dress and stay in that vernacular at that time. So that's something that we're trying to do on a regular basis. We're getting older, and so we want some new blood to come in, and some kind of younger energy with more energy can kind of take over for us. But that, I've been working with Gail and her group as far as the Black History Museum. And another project I've been working on is the restoration of the historic black cemeteries in West Augustine. And there's two black cemeteries that we've been focusing on, and that's Pinehurst and San Sebastian. And those two cemeteries, it's ironic that we're doing the MLK silent march on Monday, but I'm a part of a group that's doing a humongous cleanup at the cemetery the same time, same day. And I can't be in two places at the same time, but there's two different projects that have significance for me. And one group is going to do a great job, another group is going to do a great job. So I'm hopefully there. But then the question is, where do we go from here as a group? So that's something we have to focus on. Our speaker this morning at the breakfast said we need to get a piece of the pie. And that's what I heard from him. Now, maybe you heard something different if you were there. But it's historic tourism is very powerful and it's profitable. And that's something that we can get a piece of that pie. And we can use that money to do other things with.
Amen, amen. Thank you so much, Thomas. And Ken, bringing us home.
Okay.
Very quickly, as a first up again, thank you all for having me here today, just for a few minutes, just to not only say what I have to say, but to be able to hear what you all have said. I'm one of those who believe in listening. From a legislative perspective, what I'm doing now for my district is trying to, number one, preserve, protect, and my district for the community. It's one of the most diversified communities, brown, black, and yellow, and Caucasian, and trying to preserve the integrity of District 1, trying to resolve issues with that large Regency Square property, which I think we're close to it, trying to preserve Norman Studios, which is the first race film studio, an integral part of Hollywood, and it's right here in Jacksonville. Working on local initiatives that would help create a level playing field, working with Mr. Gregory Grant to engage more small and emerging businesses. I was part of a community that helped them before, and I will continue to
do that. Also, on the affordable housing piece, it's become kind of a moniker for investors who want to build apartments. My definition of affordable housing is not just rent, but ownership, because speaking of generational wealth, that's one way to create generational wealth by becoming a homeowner. And continuing speaking truth to power. Soren Kierkegaard, Danish philosopher, once said that there are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. And so I will continue to speak truth to power regardless of what others may say. Again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, everyone. Could you all join me in giving this panel another? So this is our third year doing this event here, and every year it gets bigger and bigger. And I have to say, I have takeaways every time. Brother Jackson, you said something a little while ago, is where do we go from here? And I think that's an incredible way as we go out today, just knowing that we all have a responsibility, right? We talked a lot about our youth today. We talked a lot about financial literacy. We talked about housing efforts and so many things as it relates to that. Well, let me step back. I did not introduce myself. I'm Howard Ford, a member of Sigma Pi Lambda chapter, where we service South Duval, St. John's, and Clay County. Sigma Pi Lambda have been in existence now almost 6 years, so we'll come up on 6-year birthday for our chapter this July. We've grown by leaps and bounds. I know we started with about 20 of us, 25 of us, and now we're almost about 70 members. So just an incredible brotherhood and presence in these 2 counties. But look forward to more opportunities. Just congratulations to the men of Kappa Alpha Psi for joining the reins over in St. John's with us, and look forward to doing more work with you as well. And as always, our sisters of Alpha Kappa Alpha. But just a few thank yous, and I will definitely get out of your way. Definitely want to acknowledge and thank Dr. Ford Burst for always opening your doors for us. Next but not least, didn't Courtney do an awesome job? It was just incredible. I was just like, why didn't we have her last year? But anyway, you did an incredible job. So thank you for helping us out with that. The panelists, we already said thank you, but thank you once again. I definitely don't want to leave this podium and not do something, and I know it's going to be a surprise. Brother Wesley, could you join me for 1 second at the podium? Brother Wesley mentioned earlier that he had overcome some battles, over the 2024 time frame. But I wanted to stand with my brother up here to acknowledge that he never missed a beat. This event was being planned after the event ended last year. We were in fraternity meeting, and he brought it up. What we're going to do next year? We get to talk about it, and just his excitement and all that he put in every year for this event. So I want to personally say, we appreciate you, brother. So just as we close, I think it's appropriate. We were celebrating ML King. I don't want to do the we shall overcome, because I think we're overcoming. Amen. So I